Nighthawks, Chapter 18, Global Revival.
Tonight on Channel 4, a prayer heard around the world. Alex Summers investigates how one man's faith sparked a worldwide spiritual awakening. From Asheville to Asia, witness the unprecedented revival that began in our small mountain town. Our team brings you extraordinary footage of mass gatherings and testimonies from those forever changed by this historic event.
Joel 2:28-29 manifested in real time, and it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. Through the very network meant for humanity's enslavement, God's Spirit now flowed freely. In every corner of earth, from the highest mountains to the deepest valleys, a great revival swept through humanity like a cleansing wave. Those who had been touched first by the evil network, now understood as a demonic deception, and then transformed by the power of prayer, came together in an unprecedented spiritual awakening. Cities paused, nations froze. The world itself seemed to hold its breath as people everywhere lifted their voices in unified praise. From Tokyo's neon-lit streets to Africa's remote villages, the transformation rippled across humanity like a wave of divine light. Business executives in Shanghai fell to their knees in corporate boardrooms. Tribal elders in the Amazon saw visions of angels walking among their people. The demonic network, meant for humanity's enslavement, instead carried the gospel to every corner of earth, fulfilling ancient prophecies in ways no one could have imagined. In Hong Kong, businessmen knelt in their suits on crowded streets. In Rio de Janeiro, the Christ the Redeemer statue stood witness as millions gathered below in worship. Across Africa, villages danced and sang, their voices carrying ancient hymns to heaven. In New York City, Times Square became an impromptu church, screens that once flickered with advertisements now streaming prayers in every language. From nation to nation, Isaiah 2:2 came alive. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as the highest of the mountains. It will be exalted above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. The elevated humans, those who had been meant to be the enemy's first converts, now used their transformed minds to help others understand the profound truth they had discovered. That technology, no matter how advanced, was nothing compared to the power of the human soul connected to its creator. Their heightened awareness, meant for enslavement, instead gave them a deeper appreciation of God's infinite design. Through their spiritual perception, they witnessed the true nature of their battle. Angels stood guard around churches, their wings of light creating shields against the darkness that prowled beyond. The Nighthawks could also see shadows moving against shadows, wings of light cutting through darkness. The invisible war being waged in dimensions beyond human sight. When Bob prayed, his words became visible, golden threads weaving through the network, transforming its foreboding green pulse into pure, radiant light. The enemy's technological deception crumbled before the simple power of faith, like shadows fleeing from dawn. The neural web, meant for evil, instead fulfilled Matthew 24:14. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. The words of Jesus from Matthew 24:24 also rang true. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. The alien deception had indeed been convincing, until Bob's simple faith exposed its true nature. On this day of ultimate reconciliation, millions gave their hearts to Jesus Christ. It wasn't from fear or desperation, but from a place of profound understanding and gratitude. They had glimpsed the enemy's ultimate plan and seen it defeated not by human wisdom or strength, but by the simple power of faith. Satan's defeat was absolute, but temporary. As it was written in Revelation, the beast would still come, but not today. God, in his infinite wisdom, had granted humanity more time, more chance for souls to choose between light and darkness. The enemy's premature gambit had failed, his technological Trojan horse transformed into a vessel for revival instead. The quantum mesh was gone, but it had left behind something far more powerful, a unified human family, awake to spiritual reality, aware of the choice that lay before each soul, light or darkness, heaven or hell, God's love or the enemy's deception. And in Asheville, where it had all begun, the Nighthawks gathered one last time at the base of the tower where Excalibur had once pulsed with alien energy. Bob held Rachel's hand as John led them in a prayer of thanksgiving. Malcolm and Albert stood nearby, their amplified minds now tuned to frequencies of praise rather than quantum calculations. They knew this was just the beginning. The real battle still lay ahead, foretold in prophecy. But for now, in this moment of grace, humanity had been given a precious gift, a preview of what was at stake, and more time to choose their eternal destiny. The northern lights danced overhead, their pure colors a testament to creation freed from corruption, as millions of voices around the world joined together in worship, preparing their hearts for the day when Christ would return not in mystery, but in glory. The transformation wasn't just spiritual, it rippled through every aspect of society. Stock markets stabilized as greed gave way to generosity. Crime rates plummeted as hearts were changed. Even the climate seemed to respond, as if creation itself celebrated humanity's return to its creator. In Asheville, where it all began, the mountains seemed to sing with new life, the air itself carrying whispers of divine presence. Nighthawks, Chapter 19, the final report.
Channel 4 News brings you the conclusion to our coverage of the Excalibur phenomenon. Tonight at 7, Alex Summers reveals how Bob Carter's powerful prayer transformed what many believed was alien technology into something far more profound. Hear from military officials and religious experts about what some are calling the greatest spiritual awakening of our time.
Good evening, I'm Alex Summers reporting live from Channel 4 News. Tonight, we bring you the conclusion of our coverage on what many are calling the most extraordinary event in human history. 1 year ago, a mysterious beacon appeared on our broadcast tower, beginning a chain of events that would transform not just our small mountain community, but the entire world. Behind me stands the tower where it all began, now quiet, its green pulse extinguished. But the changes it sparked continue to ripple across the globe. Our investigation has confirmed similar mechanisms appeared at 7 other locations worldwide, each strategically placed at what ancient cultures called sacred sites. What seemed at first like alien technology has now been revealed as something far more profound and far more dangerous. What they faced wasn't just advanced technology, explained Bob Carter, Channel 4's senior producer and key figure in what's now known as the Nighthawks prayer movement.
It was an ancient deception dressed in modern clothing, the same lie from Eden, that humanity could become gods through our own power. But God had other plans.
From Times Square to Tokyo, from London to Lagos, unprecedented scenes of spiritual awakening continue to unfold. Military officials confirm Excalibur, now deactivated and stored at the Smithsonian Institute, appears harmless. But its legacy lives on in the millions of lives forever changed by what many are calling the greatest revival in human history. The Nighthawks, whose prayer sparked this global transformation, continue their ministry through a groundbreaking podcast that reaches millions weekly. Their message is clear. What the enemy meant for humanity's enslavement, God used for humanity's salvation. For Channel 4 News, this is Alex Summers. Back to you in the studio.
On a large monitor, Colonel Harrison stood before the Pentagon staff for a debriefing, his stoic demeanor masking the gravity of what he was about to report. The faces of military colleagues filled the room, while the President of the United States watched intently from a separate 100-inch monitor hanging above the massive mahogany conference table. As Harrison delivered his report, Revelation 7.9 was being fulfilled across the globe. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb.
Mr. President and military colleagues, I'm here to give the final report on the mechanism that beamed a green pulse of light known as Excalibur. The unit and present danger has been terminated. It is no more, so we can now resume back to our normal alert standards and stand down.
Harrison's voice remained steady as he continued.
I have removed the military from Asheville, and the command center has been decommissioned. All of the vehicles, armament, and guards have returned back to their bases. Mr. President, you may wonder how this happened, and what I'm about to say will be hard to believe. Malcolm Davis, the engineer, simply climbed the broadcast tower and with an ordinary crescent wrench removed Excalibur and brought it down. He then handed it over to a museum curator. I can assure you, sir, we need not worry. We believe that it won't ever emit a beam again.
The colonel paused, choosing his next words carefully.
We do know that there was a broadcast from Excalibur that connected the minds of not only the people of Asheville, but other identical systems connected those of the world, and the idea was to transform the consciousness of the entire planet. Now, Mr. President, that's the theories of the scientists. But I have a different theory. There is no proof that an alien civilization exists, and as far as the spacecraft, there is no proof of that either. I believe what really happened was an evil plan set in motion by Satan, carrying it out in the spiritual realm. He appeared to Malcolm Davis as an angel of light, in this case, green orb, then instructed the technician to climb and install an insidious object that was used to connect the minds of millions worldwide in a network that the site is called the Quantum Mesh. He carried out the same plan at 7 other locations with the exact same results. The installations, the pulse and transmissions, the technology that Satan used was successful at first, connecting millions of people's minds. But before he could transmit his ultimate message of darkness, prayer was sent into the conduit of the neural web, thus overriding the demonic plans. What the devil would use for evil, God used for good. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, the word says. I can't speak from a military report as to what happened in the spiritual realm of warfare, but my guess is angels appeared destroying the army of darkness. With that one prayer, transmitted into the mesh, our world was awakened to the truth, and 8 billion people were freed from demonic influence. It was a miracle of prayer by one man, a member of the Nighthawks, Robert Carter, who met secretly with his team and reversed the fortune of an entire civilization. That prayer traveled through the web built by the evil forces to connect all minds was used for good, and it broke the stronghold and backfired the malevolent plans. Now, from a military standpoint, Mr. President, I must say that that was one powerful prayer, and the result, as you already know, was a worldwide Christian revival.
Where is the alien artifact now?
The president asked.
It sits in a steel case in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., with walls 3 inches thick.
Well, I am a believer, and I do believe in the miracle of prayer, but I must say that is one astonishing story. Praise God.
The president added before the meeting was adjourned. The men and women got up talking amongst themselves, wondering what it all meant, and how God intervened through the power of prayer to destroy a would-be catastrophe of mind control. They were aware of the great revival seen on TV in countries that never considered themselves Christian, and each one of them now had to check their own hearts. Many in the military that night accepted Jesus as their Savior. The morning sun streamed through Channel 4's main conference room windows as General Manager Stephen Sullivan stood before his assembled senior staff. His silver hair caught the light, and his weathered face broke into a rare, genuine smile. "I've gathered you all here for some extraordinary news," Sullivan began, his voice carrying the gravitas of his decades in broadcasting. "Our Excalibur coverage has been nominated for a National Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Journalism. That's not all. The selection committee specifically praised our team's courage in pursuing truth beyond conventional explanations. They've offered to fly our entire core team to Chicago for the ceremony next month." The room erupted in excited murmurs. Sullivan raised his hand for quiet, his eyes twinkling. He turned to Bob, Malcolm, Alex, and Harold. "You 4 especially deserve this recognition. Bob, your editorial about prayer transforming the network was perhaps the bravest piece of journalism I've seen in 40 years of broadcasting. Malcolm, your first-hand account of the installation gave our coverage authenticity no other station could match. Alex, your field reporting brought the story to life in ways that touched millions." Sullivan's voice softened. I know what it cost all of you to tell this story, the risks you took, the truths you had to face. This nomination validates what I've always believed. That truth, no matter how incredible, deserves to be told.
He straightened, addressing the whole room again.
The ceremony is next month in Chicago. The station will cover all expenses, flights, hotel, everything. This isn't just a recognition of our journalism. It's an acknowledgement that sometimes the biggest stories are the ones that challenge our very understanding of reality.
The room buzzed with excitement as Sullivan concluded the meeting, but Bob, Malcolm, Alex, and Harold exchanged knowing glances. They had told the story, or at least the part of it that the world was ready to hear. The deeper truth about spiritual warfare and divine intervention would have to wait for another day, another story. For now, they could celebrate this moment of professional recognition, knowing that through their work, millions had glimpsed something beyond the ordinary, a hint of the extraordinary battle being waged behind the scenes of everyday reality. As the world celebrated, a lone figure stared into the abyss from a hidden dimension. Lucifer was enraged at his failure and the success of the Nighthawks.
No!
He screamed, his voice echoing through the dark dimension.
They may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. My influence over humans will continue as it has for centuries. This will not stop my plans of eternal damnation and destruction.
The shadows around him pulsed with dark energy as he prepared for the next phase of his plan. The final report and the glory of the revival would not be the end, but the beginning of a new chapter in the ancient war between good and evil. The network that had once threatened to enslave humanity was gone, but its lesson would remain. No power, no technology, no force from any dimension could overcome the simple, unshakable power of faith and the human soul's connection to its maker. Find out what lies ahead for the people of Asheville, North Carolina. Nighthawks, Battle for the Future of Humanity, by John D. Bertucci, now available on Amazon. Get free chapters at jdbcreation.com.